What are the ways to gargle with Mandarin peel? Which method to choose specifically for you to achieve maximum effect and result so that the throat stops bothering? What intervals should be observed between procedures for gargling with Mandarin peel in order to minimize the inflammatory process? Can you gargle with Mandarin peel at home on your own? I will tell you all about this in today's video. At the end of the video, you will receive a bonus. I will tell you what you can treat the Mandarin with after the gargling procedure to double the result. Why do we even rinse the lacunae tonsils? We do this in chronic tonsillitis. When inflammation in the glands supports this inflammatory process, it is maintained by bacterial flora. And our task is to remove these harmful microbes from there in one way or another, to evacuate, remove, wash them out from there. And if in the lacunae of the mandalas there are entrances that go inside, and there are also unpleasant caseous or caseous plugs, such dense lumps, then our task is to also wash out the plugs from there. But the main task is to evacuate harmful microbes from there, to reduce the inflammatory process, to remove the negative impact on the immune system so that the immune system begins to recover. And I myself struggled with this problem. So that you stop being sick, so that your throat stops bothering you. That's why there is a procedure called lacunae lavage, which is specifically designed to wash out excess microbes. There are two main methods. The first is manual lavage of the tonsil lacunae, and the second is vacuum lavage of the tonsil lacunae. Manual lavage is done with a special syringe and a special nozzle. In simple terms, we use the pressure of an antiseptic to flush out microbes and microorganisms from these passages that go inside the tonsils. We do several such approaches, that is, we press the syringe to the tonsil, apply pressure with the antiseptic goes inside the lacunae. If they communicate with each other, that is neighboring lacunae, this solution comes out along with harmful microbes. If the lacuna is not connected to the surrounding ones, then simply under reverse pressure, excess microbes and pus plugs are pushed out from there. That is, we mechanically wash out what needs to be washed out from there with the help of liquid pressure. The second method is vacuum. We use a vacuum suction, which is connected through one hose, essentially the source of the vacuum itself. Through the second hose, an antiseptic is supplied, that is a liquid, and it turns out that a vacuum. Through this suction, it creates negative pressure, the liquid begins to flow into this suction and washes the tonsils, and together with the microbes that sit inside along with the probes, all this stuff is evacuated into a vacuum installation, a special can. That is, the vacuum, roughly speaking, sucks it out from there. That is, if manual washing, it washes it out from there with reverse pressure, roughly speaking, then the vacuum sucks it out from there. And this is the main difference between these two methods. Which one is better to choose? I always tell my patients that everything is individual and you have to choose in each specific case. If you have already done these procedures of washing the lacun mindalin, you can try a course in one way, evaluate the effect, then do it another way next time and try to compare. But since we usually do such washing courses once, maximum twice a year, you might already forget the effect from the previous treatment method. Therefore, you can simply try to alternate directly in some specific treatment course. That is, I usually do the first procedure, for example, manually, because I need to see if there are any casus plugs. If there are many plugs at all, there are not many of them. I do the second procedure with a vacuum method, and the patient compares which procedure was more comfortable for him, after the manual one or after the vacuum one. The patient evaluates his feelings, whether the pain syndrome has decreased, whether the itching and other symptoms have decreased. The patient usually feels internally and leans towards one or another method of treatment. If the patient cannot choose what suits him best, then I usually take this responsibility and make the choice myself. That is, either what is more convenient for me or what, in my opinion, will still be more effective for the patient. But this is in cases where the patient himself cannot decide and cannot conclude which method of treatment suits him best and helps more. There is also a variety of vacuum treatment method using the Tenzilor device. In principle, essentially, it is the same vacuum method. But to this suction cup, which we attach to the mandalas, an ultrasonic wave is also applied ultrasound. And the action time is not less than 30 seconds. Therefore, for 30 seconds, the suction cup strongly attaches to the mandala and a pain syndrome occurs. Therefore, additional anesthesia is required for this procedure so that it is not painful, so that the patient can adequately and comfortably tolerate this procedure. The mandala, of course, is moderately traumatized in the process. Therefore, this slight traumatization of the mandala somewhat reduces the effect of the ultrasound. What does the ultrasound do? It massages the mandala. It helps to penetrate the antiseptic deeper in order to achieve an antibacterial antiseptic effect. Therefore, ultrasound is a good long-term effect of vacuum. It sort of additionally sucks out the excess microbes from there. But this is damage because it is such a more invasive treatment method. Unfortunately, it slightly reduces the effect of ultrasound and the effect of long-term vacuum washing. Because the damage to the tissue is a violation of the mucus barrier, it slightly reduces the work of the local immunity. Therefore, plus to minus, it gives such an ambiguous result. According to statistics, of course, according to scientific works, Tenzilor is the most effective method of washing, Lacun Mindalin. But from my experience, I wouldn't say that it's 3 times better, right? No. Maybe it is more effective than the usual vacuum washing, but the effect is so negligible. Therefore, with my patients, if I choose the vacuum method of treatment, I usually limit myself to just vacuum without using ultrasound. But if you still want to try the maximum method of treatment, you want to try treatment with the Tonsils, why not? You are absolutely free. Without any danger, you can try to do this. And indeed, maybe in your particular case, it will give a more stable effect, but everything is individual. I repeat again, because everything depends on the structure of the almond. There are soft almonds, there are dense almonds, there are large cavities, wide passages, there are very narrow cavities, therefore everything is individual. Some people are more suited to manual washing, it ensures maximum treatment effectiveness, and the throat stops bothering. Some people are more suited to vacuum treatment because it's manual. From the inside, there are thin passages and cavities where the vacuum can suck out plugs that may not wash out. Therefore, everything is very individual and only for you. Only through experience can you independently choose which treatment method is suitable specifically for you in order to achieve the maximum result and maximum effect. The main purpose of rinsing the lacunae of the tonsils is to wash out the excess microbes that multiply and their number increases every day. Therefore, it is necessary to observe certain intervals between rinsing the lacunae of the tonsils in order to ensure a reduction in the number of these microbes. It is also very important that the immune system, it reacts to this washing out of excess microbial flora. The fact that the inflammatory process begins to decrease, the negative impact on the immune system goes away, but this process is also not fast. It takes at least 2 weeks. That's why I usually recommend my patients to undergo a course of treatment for 2 weeks so that the body can keep up with our washing. Lacun mandolin. And if we do these procedures every day, it turns out that we wash out a large part of the microbes. The next day, they haven't had time to multiply yet, so the next procedure will be, so to speak, into the void, if you can put it that way. Yes, the microbes haven't had enough time to accumulate, so we are trying to wash them out. Maybe it's not bad, but if you do the procedures every day, the course of treatment should consist of 10 to 14 procedures in order to achieve a good effect and result. That's why I recommend my patients to do the lavage of the lacunae of the tonsils every other day. That is, some microbes have already accumulated, we wash them out from there and thus achieve the necessary result. We perform such procedures from 5 to 7. On average, there are enough 5 procedures, but in some cases we sometimes extend the treatment to 7 to 8 procedures. If a lot of probiotics are preserved or if there is a clinical picture that there is still enough, a more pronounced inflammatory process is going on. Whatever you want. That is, if we make intervals every other day, then doing 5 to 7 procedures, we treat the patient over approximately 2 weeks and thus achieve a good effect. The inflammatory process in the tonsil subsides because we have washed out the excess microbes from there, as a result of which the negative effect on the immune system goes away. The immune system recovers, the patient stops being sick because the local immunity works well, the throat stops hurting because it is much less. This is the focus of this chronic infection and local immunity. It works and copes with what we bring there every day, unfortunately, on the street, when communicating there with colleagues at work, somewhere in the store, and so on. With that flora that we receive, the immune system copes. The third question we need to answer today is, can we wash the lacunae of the mandalas independently at home? The answer to this question is simple. Yes, it can be done, but under certain conditions. For this, a special syringe is required. It is not difficult to buy it in a household medical equipment store. You can purchase a special syringe for washing the lacunae of the tonsils. There are several nozzles. I always recommend using a straight nozzle. It is practically straight. It is under a small angle. It is bent for convenience to approach the tonsil lacuna. Here, but these nozzles, they also fit on ordinary syringes, on Louis Roski syringes. They are screwed on. You fill the syringe antiseptic, shine into the mouth with a flashlight, stand in front of the mirror, and try to lift this nozzle exactly to the code. Roughly speaking, to the holes that go inside the tonsils, you lift the syringe nozzle to these passages and start supplying the antiseptic solution. That is, you start spraying there, that is under pressure, but try not to poke around too much. Do not traumatize the surface of the tonsils, because you can't do this, because you can make it even worse. Try to do it as accurately as possible. From my experience, I can say that even among doctors who start working as otolaryngologists, this happens. This is how it turns out. This is it. The procedure of washing the lacunae of the tonsils manually is adequate, as this needs to be done somewhere only after 6 months, maybe even after a year. Therefore, it is unlikely that you will effectively wash the tonsils yourself. But according to my forecast, the effectiveness most likely will be somewhere from 30 to 50%. Nevertheless, if you do not have the opportunity to go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, if you live somewhere perhaps in the backwoods, or you simply do not have ear, nose, and throat clinics, and you have nowhere to go, something must be done about the glands, and the tonsils need treatment. At least you can try to do this yourself, of course, if your gag reflex allows it, because sometimes the gag reflex is so pronounced that it simply does not work out. But you can try accurately if it works out. Indeed, if you learn this, then you can ensure a good result for yourself and be self-sufficient. Doctor, periodically as necessary, you will be rinsing your tonsils, your adenoids and throat. It just won't hurt. But you need to know the basic contraindications for rinsing tonsils. Adenoids can't be rinsed when the temperature is elevated, can't rinse when there are flies on the adenoids, can't rinse when the throat hurts a lot. These are the basic contraindications under which this procedure cannot be performed. You must definitely know this, but if you have access to an otolaryngologist, then of course it is effective to do this with a doctor. Be sure to contact the ear, nose, and throat to do this as it should be done. Choose the right way to rinse your throat with saline, which will suit you, and you will stop hurting and your throat will stop bothering you. Of course, while observing all the other principles of treating chronic tonsillitis, which you can watch in my special video. I will definitely leave a link in the description. And finally, about the promised bonus, I will tell you now. Which drug is best to treat the tonsils with after rinsing? To double the result, to greatly enhance the effect of treatment, such a drug is called GOL. This is colloidal silver, the oldest antiseptic. They dissolved silver and offer it to us in liquid form for work. I usually use a 5% GOL. I treat the tonsils with it after the procedure. I dip a cotton swab into this solution and lubricate the tonsils. GOL on one side and the other. It allows to further reduce the amount of viruses and microbes on the tonsils. It stays there for some time and gives its antiseptic effect. but in addition to everything else, it also has a powerful anti-inflammatory effect. Therefore, it enhances the effect of the rinsing procedure itself by approximately 30 to 40%. Therefore, if you go somewhere for procedures and the doctor does not have such a solution as Kologal, then you can try to order it in the prescription department of the pharmacy and bring it with you. Of course, it should actually have a shelf life, otherwise the doctor may refuse you. And you can ask the doctor to treat your tonsils with a cotton swab after the rinsing procedure. Lacquer the tonsils and you will see that the effect will be much more intense, more pronounced. If you have any questions, write in the comments. If you like the video, be sure to like it. I wish you health. See you later.